Everyone. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing, honey? I am Big Meach, and this is a Big Meach moment, okay? Now, listen, I want to come to you real quickly. I'm hoping I won't be before you long because I want to share an idea or a few ideas that I've had and having conversation. You know, we've talked about, I've shared a moment with the release of Britttney Griner, okay? And in sharing that moment, you know, I was telling you guys about that in itself was about being war games and et cetera, right? Well, I had another thought. And this here is about the whole idea of women's sports in particular, because what is happening, children, is that now that Britttney has been freed and is home, what we have to do is make sure that something like this does not happen again. Okay. Now, I have gone through and um I've been listening to a couple of folks, and one person who stood out implicitly to me was Funky Dineva. Hey Funky Dineva Ross, darling. I need to get you on the show. We need to talk, sweetie. I would love to interview you. But she said something that was rather interesting, and as I got to thinking about it, I said, let me expound upon this. And her take was a lot of, a lot of folks are saying, we need to support women's sports and, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, the idea that women basketball players and women's sports period, they're underpaid. They're not getting the same kind of money that men are paid. And she said, well, quite frankly, the reason why is because y'all don't watch it. Y'all don't want to see it, right? And when she said that, I thought about it, right? I thought. And I'm like, you may have a pretty good point, because here's the thing, and this is very sexist, and I know this is a sexist idea that's going to come out of my mouth, and it stuns me that as a gay man, I still have sexist ideas. But a part of that is just the conditioning that we have being here in this country. Let's take Britttney, okay? That sister is 6 feet 9 inches tall. That's an Amazon. Already, her height alone is a distraction to the everyday man. Okay? We have been conditioned that men are supposed to be taller than women. You know what I'm saying? And that certain things that women are not supposed to do. When we talk about women's sports, let's talk about basketball, football, let's look at mixed martial arts. Let's look at boxing and things of that nature. Okay, the very physical, aggressive sports. Okay, one of the things about those kinds of sports is that we have a hard time identifying women getting hurt. We have a hard time identifying women being physical. We have a hard time seeing and absolutely putting into our psyche that a woman can actually endure and take this kind of pressure. You understand? Because we as a society have been conditioned to believe that these kinds of things are only for men. Okay? I mean, and think of it this way too. Let's look at the military. Because for the longest time, to hear women in combat, you didn't. Usually the women who were in the armed forces or whatever, they were never out on the battlefield. They were in the offices. They were either loading up weapons and carrying on. They may have been at the stations. They may have been working in different medical camps or whatever the case may be. But we never heard of women out on the battlefield. Why? Because we as a society can't get that through our heads to where a woman is out there firing weapons and this, that, and other, and then gets hurt or loses her life in battle. We have a hard time looking at police, women, female police officers. Okay. We have a hard time looking at female EMS workers, especially when they got to lift up those gurneys and carry on and pick folks up and travel that gurney and carry on. They got to lift the damn gurney to put it in the truck. Okay, not to mention if they got a walk up or whatever, and you got to bring the gurney down and carry it on and this, that, and, you know, so we have a hard time picturing females in those roles and in those jobs. Thusly, to Funky's point, I like to say Dineva. I'm saying Funky because her show TGIF, honey, that's Al always called her Funky. But to Dineva's point of us not wanting to see it, that there is that. And then here's the other thing. We don't want to put into our head space the idea of women being physical. But here's the other thing. We do not want to accept the fact that in a lot of cases, not all, a lot of cases, you're going to be seeing lesbian women. Okay? And so we have then started to sexualize the industry because you can't get behind the idea that this particular person may be going home to a wife. I mean, hell, to hear Britttney say, I have a wife at home, and to hear her wife suddenly say, I need my wife home, that the psyche of all that is still fucking with people. You understand? So we as a culture have got to learn how to look at women's sports a bit differently. I'm going to tell y'all something that's going to hit home. Now, I said mixed martial arts because it is physical, but that's the one sport that you like to see women in. Why? Because of the fantasy. See, it is always cute on the street to see chick fights. Why? Because they get to fighting and boxing and carrying on. And most of the time, you're not looking to see a woman sit down there and go blow to blow, you know, using fists. Y'all want to sit there and say they cat fighting, scratching, carrying on, pull hair and all that. But what is it that is the grand prize? Is when a bitch shirt get ripped and you get to see titties flying everywhere. See, that's what's in the psyche of America. When we think bitch fight, chick fight, and carrying on, you get to see titties out and exposed. Okay? So in mixed martial arts, them girls get to brutalizing one another because in our head, we're thinking, okay, a titty gonna come out in a minute. A titty gonna come out in a minute. Okay? And so we're there, you know, in the psyche. So we accept that. We would accept tennis because tennis is considered to be a girl sport anyway. You know, y'all accept tennis. You would accept volleyball, honey, because the titties get to bounce. You get to see them jump and bounce the titties and carrying on. So see shit like that. Oh yes, that's women. You would accept golf, okay, but anything else, honey, no. Okay, and then as I just said, we end up sexualizing the industry because to sit down here and to see a basketball player, they're not wearing makeup, they got their hair snatched back in a ponytail, and for the most part, they're going to be dressing comfortably when they come out of the game. You know, jeans and a t-shirt or whatever. You know, you can't get past the idea of them looking sexy and this, that, and the other. There's very few of the players who have been able to do that. What's my girl's name? Is it Swoops? What's her first name? Lisa Swoops? Kobe's best friend, the one that everybody got mad at Gayle King for interviewing. Y'all know who I'm talking about. She's very glamorous. She said all the time, you know, she liked being feminine. She liked being a girl. She liked that when the game is over, she gets her nails done. She wears and put on her paint and carry on. She get her hair made, honey, her hair did. And, you know, put on a coif and a frock and thing and come out still looking beautiful, okay? Those are the things that everybody wants to see in their female players. I'm going to tell you, in boxing, Layla Ali, Muhammad's daughter, huh? That bitch is still lovely. She gonna pack up one hell of a punch. But when it was all said and done, she took a punch. She got rid of her bruises and carrying on. And when that bitch was able to step back out on the street, honey, with her hair whipped and her face beat, bitch, and a cute frock, she was still glamorous. She was still pretty. She was still sexy. She was still desirable. And I believe, and this is just a personal belief system, that there is one of the hindrances with women's sports, that a lot of us in the psyche cannot get past the idea that they're unsexy. Because let's look at let's compare that to men's sports. Men know the aggression of the sport. Gay men, we go in it looking at the players. Okay, who got legs? Because I know when I'm at y'all know I'm with this College Park Skyhawks. So I go to all their games. At least, well, this season I haven't been, but I go to their games. I know my first thing is to see who got the biggest booties and the thickest legs, honey. Okay, now I get into the game. Okay, this has taught me how to get into the game. At a time when I'm sitting up there looking, I'm like, oh, okay, number 5, ooh, okay, and I can get into the game. But that there is because, you know, I can take and sexualize it and still separate it from the game. Most folks don't, because men who go see women play, they're not looking at women athleticism. They're looking at women out there to see who gonna do what. They're looking at the cheerleaders to see who gonna bounce what, to see how pretty they are. Because if a chick is looking too much like a motherfucking dude, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Okay. And that there, to Daniva's point, I think she's onto something there. But how do we change all that? Because here's another point that came out. It was it Daniva or somebody else that I heard say this, that who's to say, it was Daniva, who's to say that this stunt with Britttney, this war game that they played with Britttney, that it doesn't become duplicated across the country, where our athletes go overseas, particularly our women athletes, go overseas to play or on vacation or whatever, and somebody decides to kidnap them for a ransom of releasing their prisoner that we may have locked up over here. So see, here is where a lot of this comes into play. You know what I'm saying? The copycat crimes and this, that, and the other. What can we do with women's sports where we can revamp this? See, women's sports need to be revamped and rethought out to where they can get the sponsorship and they can get the respectability and the notoriety that they need in order for our players to have equity in the stakes. Okay? Now I'm going to ask you about this particular question, because this here is women's sports. I'm going to talk about the WNBA, the soccer team, do we have I know they were starting a women's football league. I don't know where it is. I know it's up and running, but I don't know the stakes of it per se, right? However, looking at this, how come we do not have all of our women-owned businesses on board as sponsors for them? Huh? Why are we not seeing that? If this here is about the empowerment of women, why are we not seeing women-owned companies become sponsors for the WNBA and other women's sports? Why is it that we're not looking at this on a global scene, okay, or trajectory? Listen, do y'all remember Jerry Maguire, the movie? And when Regina King, she sat up there and she says, when she was trying to negotiate the contract for her husband, and she said, listen, we came to play. I know the 4 jewels of endorsement: clothes, clothing, shoes, soft drink. Okay. You know I love that line. But okay, if those are the 4 jewels of endorsement for men's sports, how come with the women's sports we have not looked at that differently? How come we're not thinking outside of the box? If we're trying to attract women and carrying on to the play, how come folks like Summer's Eve and Playtex and all those feminine product people, how come they're not the sponsors of these particular on a global level? You know what I'm saying? If we're talking about the shoe, how come Dr. Scholl's look like a pump, feel like a sneaker is not one of the sponsors of the women's sports things? Huh? If we're talking about soft drinks, we know that Coca-Cola and Pepsi are the 2 leading of the things, right? Well, honey, listen, I'm being from Detroit, Faygo Cola is, well, Faygo Pop is, I don't know where they are in the hierarchy of the sodas. But one of the things I do understand is this: Faygo Red. If you've ever had a Faygo Red Pop, honey, nothing comes up against a Faygo Red, bitch. I don't care who it. Sunkiss can't do it. Whoever else got a strawberry pop, they can't do it. Faygo Red is the pop, is the soda. How come we have not got soda, Faygo, to be the soda of women's sports or whatever? Could you imagine what that would look like? Could you imagine what that would look like? What if we are in this whole thing of Black women entrepreneurs are carrying on? All these small businesses, the Fortune 500 businesses that are owned by Black women. How come these sisters have not rallied around, especially the WNBA, and said, look, let's collectively put our dollars here so these girls can sit up here and get the equity that they need? That's a marketing tool for them. You understand? How come we are not seeing that in the world of women's sports? Huh? Why? If we're talking about cars, hell, Regina King, they're marketing a bunch of cars and stuff for ladies. What's the one? Is it the oh damn it! Oh shit! I'm looking at it, but I can't call them what the car is. Y'all know all the commercials where they got the girls driving and carrying on and this, that, and other, and they're using these, to say that this is, a woman's vehicle. A woman can have comfortability and this, that, and the other. How come none of those particular companies are looking at this for that? How come Britttney Frankel from Housewives, whichever one she's from, was it Beverly Hills or Orange County, whichever one she's from, New York or whatever? How come her brand of liquor, what she got, what she have, is it champagne or whatever her brand? Now, how come Britttney Frankel, the businesswoman that she is, has not partnered with the WNBA and said, listen, let's make this happen? How come the Kardashians have not partnered with women's sports? Huh? Could you imagine what that would look like if we had that kind of sponsorship behind women's sports, to where the salaries could then start to get the increase because people want to come and buy the tickets? Imagine if those kinds of people. What if the Kardashians filmed one of their damn programs, honey, being at a WNBA game? You know what I'm saying? Being there at the game. Huh? What if Lizzo or somebody did the halftime show, at the game? You understand? Billy, what's her name? Billie Eilish, her. Okay. What if she, because she's a young girl, she got the ear of the young culture, whatever. What if those particular children were able to bring their platform over to women's sports? Huh? This is what we have to look at, children. In order to get butts in the seats and to get the stands overcrowded and carrying on. I know here in Atlanta, our team is the Atlanta Dream. Okay. And yes, I'm about to become a season ticket holder with them this year. For the first time I'm going to do this with them, so that we can make this happen. You understand? We need to support these, especially after this. That's been a long, grueling 10 months. Okay. And we need to make this happen. And then wait a minute. Let me go here, because I'm talking about, the whole idea of them sexualizing the players. We have a lot of alphabet children who own businesses, honey. Where are the gay children to come out who are business owners to say, listen, let's get and put some money behind this? Huh? What about it? How come we're not looking into that? Or if we are, how come no strides have been taken to make that happen? I'm going to ask you that, because I think we're on to something here. In lieu of what has happened with Britttney, We cannot afford to let that happen to any of our players, any male or female. We cannot afford to let that happen to any one of our players ever, ever, ever again. And y'all can debate about whether she was right or wrong or whatever. That's not the fight here. Okay, what it is that if this is a war tactic, we have to make sure that our players are going to be safe. Make sure that our players can make the money here to where they don't need to go overseas like that. You know what I'm saying? All in the name of playing games, or all in the name of fortifying themselves. You know what I'm saying? We need to be able to do that. And this here goes to, and I'm looking at those, I'm talking about women's sports today, but I'm thinking about Selena Johnson. Her husband used to go overseas to play because he was a basketball player. He played overseas in Italy. You know what I'm saying? What about all of the children, honey, who are maybe on the G Leagues and carrying on? I'm not sure if the WNBA have a G League yet. I don't know if that's coming. But what about the children, honey, who are playing overseas because they haven't made the team yet here, but they're playing over in other countries and carrying on for the sake of playing and developing their game and their skill and their craft and all of that? Mm-hmm. This is why we need to pay attention to this, y'all. This is exactly why we need to get this and make this happen. You understand? So let's look into that and see what comes of it, honey. And I'm hoping that I can see this in my lifetime. Okay, because I got another good 75 years up in here left before we end up renegotiating this contract. So hopefully we can see this done. And I know that we can. I know that we can. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing Fago Cola coming on board with this, and the explosion of Red Pop and Rock and Rye. Those two sodas alone, I think, will sit down here and change the trajectory of women's sports. But that's just me. So, all right. Honey, I'm Big Meach, and this is a Big Meach.